Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander Score Studio. Welcome to the show. Okay, so Duskmourn Week 2 spoiler season keeps rolling on, and we've got creepy baby commanders, baby doll commander, whatever it is. It's creepy. Check that episode out, but also check out creepy giant flying eyeball of doom. Oh my goodness. I love the design of this card. It's one of those cards that's got so much potential, but it's not like, you know, certain Magic cards out there that you can just chuck in every single deck and be like, yeah, that's good there, that's good there. No, this takes the right deck, the right build-around approach, and it delivers. Abhorrent Oculus, a 5/5 that costs 3 mana in blue, and it's got flying. And if it was just that, well, that'd still be pretty good, but not really like a commander card. We'll get to that. It does have a requirement, though, which I think is huge. I mean, obviously, for like, you know, most formats, it would need that just with that. As this cost cast a spell, exile 6 cards from your graveyard. So there is that requirement that you actually need a graveyard full of cards, nearly threshold value, essentially, to actually cast this. In the next part, this is just the icing on the cake. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, Manifest Dread. Yes, please. So again, Manifest Dread basically is top 2. One goes as a face down, 2/2 creature on the battlefield. The other goes in your graveyard. So kind of like Surveil and Manifest all in one, kind of. So there is some card selection there, which is great. And of course, in like a blink deck, some shenanigans or like, like a flip over deck kind of shenanigans too. That being said, at the very least, you have a 5/5 flyer for 3 mana. Yes, it does have that requirement to get it into play. Again, exiling things from your graveyard, but essentially a 2/2 every single turn except your own. And on top of that, card selection, getting things in your graveyard, that can be valuable as well. Yes, please sign me up for this. Unfortunately, it's a Mythic, so I'm not being able to, probably get signed up to this anytime soon. It'd probably be a pretty expensive card, I would think. But hopefully, fingers crossed, it's not. Under $1, please, somehow, some way, and then I can utilize it. Again, in like a wheel strategy, my goodness, you can get this down so early. You just like wheel once, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. Next turn, maybe on turn 3, you're like, okay, cool, yeah, it's in play. Have fun. Just have a massive army in absolutely no time. Wheels, discard strategy, self-mill strategy. You love it. Amazing. Please, 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 more of these types of cards. Wizards, next up. Valvagos Onslaught. A source for XX and a single green mana. Manifest Dread X times to put X counters on each of those creatures. Lots of value to be had. I can't remember what's the worm called. It's like worm calling. I can't remember or no, it's an ooze. It's the ooze maker. I think the ooze making one is this, right? Where it's like XX and a green, and you make a bunch of oozes, X oozes that are XXs, right? This is just strictly better than that now, kind of, because again, you're getting basically that, but they're all 2/2s that then get counters on them. So yeah, basically +2 extra power than the other one. And also, again, with that Manifesting Dread, like I just mentioned with that previous card, there is some great card selection aspect to that as well. Plus, since they're like face down 2/2s instead of tokens, well, like when they die, they still go to your graveyard, and a graveyard might, be beneficial to you. Or again, if you can flip them, flip them. Yeah, this is a really, really cool card. I mean, if you have a blink deck, this could just be a really cool, just giant, X spell where you're dumping a ton of mana into this. And then you got a bunch of face down 2/2s, and some of those might be some really good creatures that you actually want to blink. I'm thinking like Brago type, but Brago obviously can't utilize this in the colors. But basically, if you have a mass blink effect, and there's many of those out there, blink all these face down creatures, flip them up, and then they're whatever permanents they are if you need to do that. You lose those counters, but still you might have more value to it. So yeah, this is a giant, amazing X spell. Just big mana will love it. X spell tribal will love it, as well as, of course, well, I guess too, like graveyard decks might want this as well because of the, milling aspect to it. Yeah, really, really cool. Moving on. Resurrected Cultist. I should say also counters decks might want that too. Resurrected Cultist, though, a 4/1 human cleric for 3 mana in black. Delirium for 4 mana in total. Bring it back from your graveyard to the battlefield. They finally counter on it. Activate with only 4 more card types. When card to graveyard only a sorcery. This is very much a limited card in my opinion, or a very specific deck might want this. Yeah, maybe like clerics or humans, or it's just like a worse re-slumming skeleton. Yeah, it's got like 4 power, but again, it's only bringing it back once, and you do need, that requirement of 4 more card types among cards in your graveyard. Inolite Sorcerer Suite 2, it's a bit too limited. Moving on, Innocuous Rat. A 1/1 rat for 2 mana in black. When it dies, manifest red. Yeah, I mean, if you have, let's say, an Aristocrat style strategy, you could consider this one. This is 2 bodies for the price of 1. On top of that, getting more things into your graveyard again with that manifest dread. Yeah, seems like a very solid card for a common. Yeah, a very cool card. Moving on, Vanish from Sight. Instant for 4 mana in blue. Target non-land permanents owners put it on the top or bottom of the library. Surveil 1. I always think that this is a bit, obviously, it might be just a bit overcosted in my opinion, like for Commander, but like when it comes to other formats, sure, that might be the right cost, but like, they're probably, if it's a really good creature, they're going to put it on top. If it's a really bad creature, they're like, okay, it's gone forever. You paid 4 mana to do that and Surveil 1. All right. But yeah, Fate Sealing them is nice. Yeah. And Commander, obviously, we have better ways to deal with things. Moving on. Unable to Scream. An enchantment or for a single blue mana enchant creature. Enchant creature loses all abilities as a toy artifact creature with base power of 0/2. Just other types. As long as an enchanted creature is face down, it can't be turned face up. Interesting. So this, and we're starting to get more and more of these types of cards. This is just a good way to, 1 mana, throw this on someone's commander and maybe even just ruin their entire strategy again for a 1 mana card until they can actually deal with this. This is the type of thing where you don't need to, but it would very much benefit you to be like, hey, other opponents, this player is a problem right now. Their commander is a huge problem. I can deal with this, their commander, for a while if you both agree not to make a deal with that player to like swing at them so they can block with this, or have them swing at you with this so you can block that, okay? Like if everyone agrees to just let's shut down that commander right now so we can all catch up to that player, great. If you just decide to throw this on there, though, and, like, you didn't talk about that ahead of time, then the other player's like, hey, I'll make a deal with you. If you block my commander that's got this so I can get it taken care of and then, just replay it, great. Yeah. So, yeah, make sure you're making deals with this kind of a thing. It's a cool card, though. Aura's decks might want to consider 2 Enchantress decks, too. Moving on. Hardened Escort. A 2/4 human soldier for 3 mana in white. Attacks other target creature control. It's +1/+0, gains indestructible on turn. More of a limited card, I would say. If you really want to protect your commander, cool, but, like, this is going to get taken out. Anyways, moving on. We've got Grand Entryway / Elegant Rotunda. Whenever you unlock this door, create a 1/1 white Glimmer creature enchantment creature token. When you unlock this door, put a counter on each of 2 target creatures. Limited card. Moving on. Friendly Ghost. That looks nothing at all like Casper. Okay, they didn't want to get sued. 2/4 Spirit with flying for 4 mana in white. Enters, target creature gets +2/+4 until end of turn. Limited card. Next up, Friendly Teddy. And my apologies, some of these are a bit grainy. I'm not sure exactly why. Like half the images that were just released are pretty grainy, but my apologies for that. But we can read them pretty well. A 2/2 Bear Toy for 2 mana and colorless and generic mana. When it dies, each player draws a card. Group hug decks maybe? Cool. I guess you could group hug with a teddy bear. Cool. Next up, Found Footage. A clue that costs 1 mana. We look at any face-down creatures your opponents control anytime. Pay 2, sacrifice it, Surveil 2, then draw a card. That's a supercharged clue right there with the Surveil 2, then draw a card. But, yeah, it's just okay. Like, this is very specific. If you are playing against, say, Eddie's face-down tribal deck, congratulations, you found the card to stop it. Cool. Good for you. But yeah, this seems more very specific, limited. Next up, Midnight Mayhem. A sorcery for 4 mana in Boros. Create 3 1/1 red Gremlin creature tokens. Gremlins control game Menace, lifelink, and haste of turn. Yeah, if you have Gremlin Tribal, congratulations. Here's a cool card for it. If not, I would typically rather just have like a 3 mana, make 3 1/1s. And usually have more like relevant creature types to those, like goblins. Cool, like Hordling Outburst, I think's the one. I'd rather have that. Paying the extra mana, sure, you get like, hey, Menace, lifelink, haste, great. Okay, for 3 1/1s. Cool, you can go deal maybe 3 damage and gain 3 life. Congratulations. But yeah, I'd say other ones are a bit more efficient typically. Next up, Intruding Soul Rager, a 2/2 Spirit with Vigilance. I guess I should say on that last one. Changeling Tribal, maybe you could consider it though. 2/2 Spirit with Vigilance for 2 mana. Is it tap, sacrifice a room, 2 damage each opponent, draw a card. If you've got a room deck, cool. If you don't, No. Moving on, Wickerfolk Thresher, a 5/4 Scarecrow, Reaper King. Another Scarecrow for you. For 4 mana in green, Delirium. Whenever it attacks, if there are 4 more card types on cards in your graveyard, look at the top card of your library. It's a land card. You put it on the battlefield. If you don't put it on the battlefield, put it in your hand. I mean, probably could consider in a Reaper King deck. Usually you want lower to the ground Scarecrows if you can, but I mean, pickers can't be choosers because, yeah, you only have so many Scarecrows out there. I mean, and Changelings as well. It's a decent effect, and you're probably going to have a decent amount of things in your graveyard at a certain point in the game with that. So, cool. You could consider it, but if you don't, I'm not blaming you. Next up, Flesh Burrower. Disgusting. 2/2 insect with Death Touch for 2 mana. When this attacks, that target creature control gains Death Touch till end of turn. I mean, like, I was going to say Death Touch Tribal deck, but if you got Death Touch Tribal, most likely all of your creatures have Death Touch, though there might be some cases where they don't, and if that's the case, yes, could definitely see play. It does seem more like a limited card, although, yeah, I mean, if you've got, like, maybe a First Strike Commander as well, you could consider this too, though you probably want more so equipment that are like, okay, that gives Death Touch or whatnot, or Trample, that kind of thing too. Yeah, it's probably more limited, but yeah, in a Death Touch Tribal deck, this might be able to see play. There's only so many low-to-the-ground Death Touch creatures. Next up, got Defiant Survivor, a 3/2 Human Survivor for 3 mana in green. At the beginning of your second main phase, if it's tapped, Manifest Dread. Again, with these, I keep saying that with these, it's like, if you have a commander that you can just, like, tap other creatures to do things outside of just, like, using these to swing in combat, cool. You don't have to have this go, get killed in combat to try to actually stay tapped. But yeah, outside of that, it's a good amount of value if you can tap it. But yeah, if you don't have a commander that can, like, reliably, or a strategy that reliably just taps this without being in combat, not really a consideration for commander. Next up, Cryptid Inspector, a 2/3 Elf Warrior's Vigilance for 3 mana in green. Whenever a face down permanent you control enters, and whenever it or another permanent you control is turned face up, put a counter on it. Yeah, I mean, this probably won't even make Eddie's cut for, face down tribal, because it's just like, okay, cool, I've got a slightly large vigilant creature. Cool. Yay! There's some more exciting things to do. Next up, Coordinating Collaborating, a sorcery for a single green mana. Tap 1 or 2 target untapped creatures you control. They deal damage equal to the power to target creature opponent controls. Like an interesting, like, fight kind of mechanic-ish, but tapping 2 of your creatures to do so, and they don't actually take damage. Like, it is safer in that way, but you're also tapping them down. There's better fight mechanics out there, and actually some fight decks out there actually want that damage to their own creatures because of, like, enrage triggers as well. This is just okay. Next up, Cautious Survivor, an Elf Survivor for 4, a 4/4 Elf Survivor for 4 mana. At the beginning of your second main phase, if it's tapped, you gain 2 life. No, probably not many decks out there want this. Maybe life gain decks, but probably not at all. That's you really gotta make sure this is tapped. Again, these tap ones are just kind of like, they're probably more so for limited other formats. Ragged Playmate, a 2/2 toy for 2 mana in red. Raggedy Ann has gone crazy, apparently. Pay 1 tap. Target creature with power 2 or less can be blocked this turn. Very specific, more limited card. Next up, Most Valuable Slayer. Oh, I see what you did there, Wizards. Player, but Slayer. Wow. A 2/4 Human Warrior for 4 mana in red. Whenever you attack creature gets plus 1/0 against first strike until end of turn. More of a limited card. Impossible Inferno. Instant for 5 mana. 6 damage target creature. There are 4 more target card types among cards in your graveyard. Exile top card of your library, play it next turn. Yeah, basically Impulse Draw, essentially. If you have that, yeah, it's a lot to pay for 6 damage to 1 creature. In Commander, there's just a bunch of different better ways to, do that. And potential card advantage, temporary, not really. Limited. Nashi, Searcher in the Dark. Now, this one is, I missed this one over the weekend. I want to make sure that I covered it with a quick take on it. So let's talk about Nashi, a 2/2 Rat Ninja Wizard, which is a thing, of course, with Menace that costs 2 mana in Dimir. Whenever it deals combat to a player, you do mill that many cards. You may put any number of legendary and or enchantment cards from among them onto the battlefield. Just kidding, in your hand. If you put no cards in your hand this way, put a counter on Nashi. If that was on the battlefield, this would be brokenly good. This is, good. You can definitely get a good amount of card advantage if you do hit correctly, if you hit for a good amount, and also you are again, building your deck in a way that you've got an absurd amount of legendaries or enchantments or a combination of both. This is the type of commander that you definitely can go in both ways. I would probably pick a lane. The way that I would probably lean with this is more likely like legendary tribal, because there's so many good legendary cards out there, and now we're getting more and more support for Legendary Tribal itself and just the way that that functions. We're also getting more and more legendary lands, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. So you definitely have like an opportunity to hit a ton of things. You can definitely go Enchantress if you want with this. You are limited to Dimir. There are some really good enchantments in there, obviously, but like when it comes to like enchantment, like Enchantress effects, you don't really have many of those in these colors. That's more of like Selesnya thing. So I would say, again, you can really take advantage of graveyard synergies, really take advantage of those kinds of things, more so with Legendary Tribal most likely. I'll highlight some things from both when we get into the cards. And if you are interested in these cards in this commander, make sure you pick them up. First up, Heroes Podium. Yeah, again, if you are going Legendary, make sure you go with this Ledger Artifact that costs 5. Each Ledger creature you control gets +1 for each other Ledger creature you control. Basically like Joda's kind of thing. I don't know why Joda got that. Joda shouldn't have gotten that. The new Joda should not have gotten that. Anyways, pay X stat, look at the top X cards of your library, maybe a legendary creature card from among them, put in your hand, put the rest of my library in a random order. Yeah, so some potential actual, additional card advantage from this in selection in a way, but more likely it's just like, hey, giant anthem effect for your team. And keep in mind again, the more you pump Nashi, the more you're going to hit for, and the more you hit for, well, the more potential card advantage you have to get more legendary cards like Blackblade Reforged, which also pumps your commander, +1 for each land you control. Again, you are in Dimir, you're not in green, you don't have access to the best land ramp out there, but still, you can land ramp, you do so, and even if you're not land ramping all that fast still, like just like +5 is still a ton, and again, you're going to be milling even more and potentially getting even more cards. Next up, Mask of Grizzlebrand. I love this card. Creature is flying and lifelink, so again, yet another great way to help try to get your commander through. Again, Nashi does have Menace, can only be blocked by 2 or more creatures. You give it flying, chances are incredibly likely you're getting through on a couple of players with this, and also gaining a ton of life, which is nice. On top of that, though, when this creature dies, you may pay X life for X its power for you to draw X cards. Again, the more power you give your commander, the better you're going to be doing, obviously. I mean, you can, like, Voltron take people out, too, with this, which is quite funny. But also, you are going to be able to, recover if your commander is dealt with, because you can be like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, sure, I just started gaining all that life. Yeah, I'll draw 10 cards or so or whatnot. Why not? Next up, Tormod the Desecrator. How about a legendary that actually deals with the graveyard as well? Whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, critic tap 2/2 black zombie creature token. And partner, that's quite nice too. But yeah, unfortunately, it is one or more wizards and not wanting, things to be too broken sometimes, depending on the card. But yeah, you actually are just getting an additional 2/2 zombie whenever you hit anything off the top of your library. That goes into your graveyard, then goes into your hand. So keep that in mind. I mean, Sir Conrad the Grim can definitely help as well. There's a lot of other legendaries that care about the graveyard. Muldrotha, etc., etc. Next up, if you are going enchantments, of course, there's some great enchantments like Reconnaissance Mission, and now that I think about it, a legendary card as well with Bite of Fast, which is basically the exact same thing. Whenever a creature you control deals combat to a player, you may draw a card. Again, if you are working hard to get Nashi through, as well as probably other legendaries as well, if you're going that direction, or I guess with this one's more so enchantments, enchantment creatures, there you go. You're going to be able to draw a lot of cards with this. Aqueous Form, you could go kind of like auras. It's a bit more risky to go auras, especially with a commander that's not like, this one does give you a good amount of card advantage to try to replace them once you get things going. That being said, again, when your commander is dealt with, then you lose all the auras attached to it. Can't be blocked, though, whenever it attacks Scry 1, which can be quite nice to set yourself up as well. Again, go in whatever direction you want with this one. You can do a really fun enchantment deck, too. Otawara, Soaring City. Let's talk about some really pricey cards right now. $18.77. No, really, Wizards. When you make a land that comes into play, untap, taps for a blue, and then also just, removal. Wow. Yeah, it's going to be expensive. Okay. So yeah, taps for a blue, pay 3 and a blue, discard it from your hand, return target artifact, creature, enchantment, or planeswalker to someone's hand, cost 1 less to activate for each legendary creature control. Again, if you are in legendary tribal with this, great. Again, you can just hit this off the top of your library, get it in your hand for free value, and then probably just pay a single blue mana to bounce something. Absolutely amazing and lovely from just coming from a land. And of course, obviously, even if you're not in legendary tribal, with this, you obviously can still just throw in a Rhystic Study, because that's an enchantment. Wow. Who knew that was good? If you want to annoy your friends. Enchantment for 3 mana in blue. Whenever an opponent plays a spell, you may draw a card unless they pay 1. Lots of great, very good enchantments in these 2 colors as well. Yeah, you don't necessarily have those Enchantress style effects, but I don't know if you need an Enchantress style effect when you've got a Rhystic Study or a Mystic Remora in play. You're going to be drawing a lot of cards with this. And with that, this episode is coming to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. In the comments below, let me know your thoughts are on this episode, and of course, as always, thanks again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.